Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to another episode of the Fanzone podcast. We are back for episode 44. Thank you all very much for joining us. If you are watching along live, then as always, get your comments in as we go along about the things we're talking about, and we'll share your opinions and get your thoughts on what we're talking about. And if you are listening along at home and wondering how you can get in on the action, then if you head over to our Twitter, you'll find out about all of our upcoming episodes that are streamed live, obviously on all the different platforms. But tonight we are joined by a very, very special guest, and that is the one and the only John McGinlay. So, John, thank you very, very much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. My pleasure.
No, it's the pleasure is all ours. I can assure you of that. I'm sure, along with many others, we're really excited to get this one off and going. So, without further ado, we will kick it off. So we have a little bit of it's almost like a bit of an initiation for our guests.
Right.
So we have a question that
You're a pretty good singer, aren't you, John? That's all I hear. You're a pretty good singer, aren't you? So I hear. Is that right?
No. I could empty the room quicker than anybody else. Yeah.
So our initiation, if you will, is imagine you're waking up on perhaps a Saturday morning and you're fancying a full English. What is on the plate? So you're fancying a fry up. What consists of a full English for you, John?
Or Scottish.
Yeah, full Scottish. Well, probably bacon, egg, sausage, mushrooms, fried bread, potato scone. Have I got any more room in my plate?
Yeah, plenty of room. Keep going.
Tomato. That'll be about it, I think. Toast. Yeah, that'll be it.
So you'd have toast and fried bread and all?
Yeah.
I'm the greatest man. Honestly, I am. Yeah.
I like your style.
What do you wash it down with, John?
What would I wash it down with? It would have to be a coffee and a fresh orange juice.
Oof.
With bits in it. Orange juice with bits.
Well, you can't. Oh, right. I was going to say. I thought you meant your coffee then. Right? Yeah.
And what kind of egg, John?
What kind of egg? That would be. That would probably change. Sometimes I would have scrambled egg, and sometimes obviously a runny egg. It has to be runny because it's gone.
Yeah. Bin it straight in the bin.
and some beans and all, and some beans on the breakfast.
Bit of juice.
Yeah.
You've run out of room, John. You've got to be a side plate then.
Yeah, it's spilling over edges now.
Have you seen this on my plate, by the way?
John's special plate.
It could double up as a bin lid. You know?
It's a solid lineup. It's a very, very solid lineup. But without further ado, we will head into our new segment, which is, of course, Angie's quickfire questions.
So, just a bit of fun to get us warm, John. So, nothing too serious. First thing that comes in your head, that's what your answer is.
That's what I'm
saying. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Film or a box set?
Box set.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Sunrise or a sunset?
Sunrise.
Cars pasty or haggis?
Cars pasty.
Burnham Park or Reebok / Tough Sheet?
Burnham Park.
Hey.
Winning a cup or winning the league?
Winning the league.
Who's in your goal? Keith Brannigan or Justin?
Keith Brannigan.
Extra time or straight to penalties?
Extra time.
And then your final one is an open-ended question, but who for you is the GOAT?
And you can't say Kenny Dalglish either. If that's what's.
I was just going to say especially Kenny Dalglish, but
I
I'd have to go Messi. I think Ronaldo was there for me until probably the Man United situation, and then the Saudi thing, because it was all, I think that tarnished him, if I'm honest with you. So it'd have to be Messi.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Fabulous. Well done. You survived.
A lot of people have got that thought process towards Ronaldo, haven't they? Really, after the whole Piers Morgan interview and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously, it was engineered to get the move, and I think somebody of that ilk doesn't need to do that. You know what I mean, the business takes care of itself, and I think he became such a disruption. I think in the dressing room and about the park. No, I think he was. Sometimes people show their true colours, and I think that was it for him.
For assessment, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
From a football standpoint, obviously you can't argue they were both on a par, aren't they, really, to be fair. But
I mean, to be honest with you, before that happened, when you look at it, all round, I think it was him. Because he gives you a 9, he gives you a goals, doesn't he? He gives you in the box, he could do things outside the box. I think for him, he was absolutely outstanding. But then, you look at Messi and the way he's conducted himself. You know what I mean? Pure class, the guy, no question.
Yeah, I think Messi would be better in a Ian Evatt side, and Ronaldo would be better in a Big Sam side, wouldn't he? That's the way it worked, wouldn't it? Because of the headers and that he'd benefit from it.
Yeah, you could see that, but I think Messi himself conforms more to a team game, doesn't he? Ronaldo will go and win a game on his own, but Messi, he's an individual, no doubt. But Messi is a team player.
Good answer. Like that. Good questions, Ange.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go. I thought I was back on the 4-4-2 there.
We do it proper here, John. We do it all proper here. So,
learning.
So moving on, 1992. Okay, so obviously that marked the beginning of it's a historic spell, isn't it? Really, with Bolton Wanderers. Obviously, you spent time in both Scottish and English leagues, and then you signed for Bolton. Yep. So how did the move come around, and how did it make you feel? How excited were you about the potential move to the Wanderers?
Well, two things really. I mean, obviously I was at Millwall with the boss. The boss was with me. He was the one that signed me for Millwall. So when the boss left, obviously, personally I was gutted, because I felt he had put me on the right track. He had worked on my game and improved me, I think, dramatically. Really, he instilled a bit of discipline in me that I hadn't had before. And probably, no disrespect to anybody else, but he was probably the one that I really started to listen to. You know what I mean? And really take it on board and let it sink in.
Why is that, John, do you think? Why do you think he resonated with you more than any other of your previous managers?
It's hard to put your finger on it, really, because, a lot of things he did were similar to other managers, but there was just something about the boss that stood out. And it was kind of, well, I suppose not just that. Like, I suppose if it was his way or else it was a highway sort of thing, you know what I mean, as well. So it was either conform and listen and learn and act on it, or else you probably won't be there very long. So, but I think, for him, I had, from the first day I'd met him, I had so much respect for him. And, like you said, there was just something that clicked between the two of us. Yeah. And more so coming from him to me. And like I said, it was just a case of taking it on board, and he really sort of hit home. So, obviously, sadly, then he loses his job, and then obviously he gets the Bolton job. And not long after he got the Bolton job, I got a phone call, and it was actually from Ian McNeill. Now, I had a long part of history with Ian, because Ian signed me for Shrewsbury. Ian then leaves Shrewsbury and he goes to Millwall as Bruce's assistant. Yeah. And then he came to Bolton as a chief scout as well. Yeah. So there was a long association with Ian, and Ian phoned me up as soon as pretty much the boss got the job, and he said, "Look, we're coming in for you. We're going to sign you. He says, be ready and be ready to travel. So from that phone call, basically, I had a bag packed and it was in the car. Because I said to my wife, I said, look, as soon as I get the phone call, I'll have to go. And wherever I am, I'm gone. So that was it. So this was round about July time. And so I've got this bag that's floating about in the car like since July. Season starts, they still haven't come back for me. And basically, the story was they were trying to raise the money. Now, it wasn't a great deal of money, but they were raising the money. And I finally got the phone call on the 29th of September. And it was Ian McNeil. Ian was on the phone and he said, right, we've sorted everything out. Come up.
Yeah.
And I was like, gone. I didn't even, honestly, God, I jumped in the car and I was gone. Wheel spins, gone.
Ready. It's been there 2 months. Yeah. Yeah.
So all he had said to me was, you're booked into the Pack Horse, Nelson Square, and come in first thing and see us at the ground. So I got to the Pack Horse, booked in. During that night, went to bed during that night, and it must have been about 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. Next minute, the noise, and when I'm up, I'm looking out the window, and the place is packed outside. You know what I mean? And I'm
Bradshigate. Oh, yeah, it's rammed out there.
Right, so I'm thinking, oh no. So
do you want shit to join them?
Well, do you know what? I mean, I actually crossed my mind because I thought I never thought at some point I'll be right in the middle of that crowd at some point. You know what I mean? But so there you go. And the next morning I went in and I said to them, I said, well, how did you get on? And I went, well, didn't get a lot of sleep, to be honest with you. So they moved me and they put me in the moat house.
All right.
Which was right outside Ritzy's. So really,
I was going to say it's a crossroad from Ritzy, as it was. Yeah.
So that was it. And then I went in the next morning, did all the legal stuff, and obviously signed the contract. Had a little bit of a medical, and actually when I signed, the boss, I was in the office with the boss, and he says, "Look," he says, "I can't give you what you're on at Millwall." He says, "But just trust me on it." And I went, okay, and that was it. I didn't even know what I was signing for. And that is gospel truth. I didn't know how much I was getting. I didn't know nothing. All I knew was I was losing my club car at Millwall. I wasn't getting anywhere near the money I was getting at Millwall, and that was it. But listen, I trusted him. I mean, no question about that. I trusted him. And 9 months later, he came back and he gave me a new contract. So, you know what I mean?
Did he give you a car?
No, he didn't. He never gave me a car. No, but.
I suppose you're a little bit close to Scotland, though, John, weren't you? I suppose for traveling if anything else.
Well, that and obviously, I mean, I'd played just down the road at Bury as well, so I knew of Bolton. I knew how big a club it was. I knew the area, and I knew the tradition. I knew the history of the place, and it was steeped in it. You walked into the place, and it made the hairs in the back of your neck stand up.
Yeah, that was a burning part, wasn't it? Obviously, it's not. It wasn't the grandest of surroundings, was it? But like you say, you could feel it, couldn't you?
It was to us, but obviously away teams hated it.
Yeah.
They hated it. I mean, our dressing room was nice. The away dressing room was horrible. It was like a dungeon. You know what I mean? So it was very welcoming. People didn't like coming there, did they? If you're honest, but to us, it was the best place ever.
And just to obviously, John, sorry to interrupt you. We've got obviously quite a few younger audience as well. So to help them, the boss is obviously Mr. Rioch, in it.
Yes.
Just for the younger audience amongst us.
Yeah. And I find to this day, I could never call him Bruce. You know what I mean? I struggle with it. He's the boss, and that's it. I couldn't call him by his first name.
I was going to say, you never once referred to him his name in all that conversation. He was always the boss.
I can't, because he's the boss, and that is it. No question. And he's, I mean, do you know what? I mean, it's funny because, obviously speaking to other players at that time as well, and you listen to him, he's impacted, honestly, so many of the players in things they do now and things they did and in life in general. You know what I mean? He's impacted us so much. It's untrue. It really is.
I'd go too far to say, even though he was only at Arsenal for a very short period of time, I don't know whether you agree, but he's probably impacted Arsenal more than they can imagine by signing Dennis Bergkamp, because effectively, once they signed him, they just went like that, didn't they?
Well, when you look at it, even now, when you speak to people, their first thoughts are it was Arsene Wenger that signed Bergkamp. So they kind of bypass Bruce completely.
Mad, isn't it?
You know, and that's it. So Bruce doesn't get any credit for that at all. And to be honest with you, I mean, he's gone in there. You know, you'll hear stories about this, that, and the other that happened. But I mean, there's only one guy really that knows the truth. But you know, it was player power that got him out of there. Sadly.
Yeah.
It was simple as that. When 7 or 8 players gang up on him, they're all England internationals, they're all household names. When that happens, there's only one person going to pay the price.
Yeah, that's still going on now, isn't it? 30 years later, with players when they get their own way and stuff. Yeah. So, if we can cast your mind back a little bit, John. So obviously, when you signed, you obviously had a massive impact on the club, and you scored a number of vital goals. Obviously, really early on in your career. One kind of more so than when we played Preston, and you scored a penalty. It's a local rival. As a centre forward, does scoring goals kind of get much better than that in that type of situation?
I mean, it was a terrible game, if you're honest. It was the last game of the season. We had to win it to get promotion, and I think Preston had to win to stay up. But they showed no, I mean, honest to God, I mean, if you'd seen them, they had 10 men behind the ball at all times. They were just kicking the ball into our half. We were retrieving it and then going attacking again. It was wave after wave of attack, and we struggled. It was just a horrible game. We didn't create many chances. And in the goal itself, David Lee broke down the right-hand side, went to play a cross into the box, and it hit the boy on his side, if you're honest. I still, to this day, don't think it was a penalty. But we gladly took it, and it got us promotion. But you know what? That was a kind of culmination in an effort that was unbelievable from both the players and the supporters. Because when you looked at it, and again, not because of when we came in, but when we came in, we were 18th in the league. So we were playing catch-up all season. And every game got bigger and bigger and bigger as we went on. And obviously Andy Walker and myself were scoring goals. We had David Lee, assisting us. And, you had people like Julian Darby, Scott Green, all these guys were chipping in with goals as well. So we were on an unbelievable run. And on a run, the pressure was so great that, the feeling was we couldn't afford to lose a game, really. Now, we did lose the odd one here and there, but there was no bad runs. And like we said, the pressure, it built and built and built, towards the end of the season. And then it really hit home. The crowd grew. It seemed to grow every week. And then when you got to the end of the season, then you couldn't get a ticket for the place because it was sold out. It was just unbelievable. Yeah. And the atmosphere, the crowd, we felt as one. When you looked at the fans and looked at the team, we were one. We knew each other, and everybody's, it just seemed like everybody knew each other, and there was a responsibility on our shoulders to go and get promotion, because the club had been in the doldrums. The club had seen some really dark times, and all of a sudden we were on the verge of having success. So it was brilliant.
This isn't part of the question set, and I apologise for going down a different route here. But do you see similarities to these lads these days to when you were in that back then?
100%, 100, no question about that. I look at Ian Evatt, very similar in his stature and his presence to Bruce. I mean, he's got authority, hasn't he? He's when he walks into a room, people take notice.
Helps being 6.5 foot, though, doesn't it? I guess.
Well, he is a giant, to be fair. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. He was a big centre half. So no, I mean, when you see it, it is. It's a young, hungry team.
Yeah.
Engaging in the community, they're engaging with the fans. We're starting to get that feel now. The crowd seems like it's growing every week.
Yeah.
Season on season, it's been growing fantastically well. And people, that had fallen out of love with the football club because of owners and because of, certain things, they've now fallen back into love with the club. And, last year when you look at the Papa John's Cup final, I think that gained so many young fans and brought them into the fort for us. Now we're seeing kids wearing the Bolton shirts around the town and everything else again. It's unbelievable. It really is.
As it should be, really, isn't it, I guess?
Well, it should be. Listen, if you live in this town and you were born in this town, you should support Bolton Wanderers Football Club. There's no question about that. Have another team, have a second team, but this should be your team.
Yeah.
But we're seeing it. And people, the atmosphere's growing into it. I mean, you come in now, everybody's excited. Everybody's looking forward all week to going to a game at the weekend. The feel at the moment is just fantastic in the football club. It really is.
Good to hear. Good to hear. I've got another question for you. Sorry, I know it's not mine and your podcast, this, John. My apologies. But you mentioned Andy Walker. Obviously, you had quite a successful partnership with him. One of my first memories as a football fan, and I'm going to have to ask you this, and you'll have to tell me whether I'm right or not with this, is you and Andy Walker before each game, did you always try and hit the crossbar before the start of the game? Or have I dreamt that in my mind?
There was Andy was always Andy's got a really dry sense of humour.
Right.
And Andy, he would come up with these little games all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Right, so, yeah.
And that was it. Some of them with a crossbar, someone with a post. It just depends. It was all different types of things. But he'd always come up with different stuff, Andy. And and he would have to amuse himself. Do you know what I mean? And he would, he'd get up to all sorts. But
he had a hell of a career as well, didn't he?
Oh, do you know what? Absolute class. Do you know what? If you played the ball into Andy Walker, you knew it was, first of all, it was a great first touch. Next minute, he'd roll the centre half and he was getting a striker goal. That was just standard. Do you know what I mean? And it happened every time. Bringing players into play, finishing, unbelievable. And
all the basic stuff, but he did it very well as a striker.
He had a great appetite for football, Andy. He just loved the game and loved to score goals. And we were lucky because as a strike partnership, we seemed to walk onto the training ground first day and just click.
Brilliant.
Nothing was worked on. I just seemed to know where he would run. He knew where I would run. We had that feel between the two of us, and we were lucky because invariably he would score, or I would score, or we'd both score. I don't think there was many games where one of us didn't score. But I think we worked really hard for each other off the ball. We complimented each other as well. And to this day, in fact, I've had a phone call off this afternoon. You just reminded me there, actually. I've had a phone call off. I've not phoned them back yet.
So, John, you got yourselves a nice nickname of the White Hawks during that spell with us, which I think now is an IPA or a cider or something, I think, that you can get your hands on if you've never tried it. And you had a little spell of being giant killers, as they call it. You put out some really big teams, Liverpool, Arsenal, Everton, in cup matches. Does that underdog title or the fact that you aren't the favourite kind of drive you on a little bit in those sorts of matches?
I think so. I think you would always rather be the underdog. Because if you're honest, you can't really lose, can you? To a certain degree, you can't lose because if you play well and don't win, well, you weren't expected to win. I think all you can do as a team is go and put on the best performance you can, and then hopefully it takes care of itself. But I think when you look back, we became quite popular as a cup giant killing team, let's call it. And I think we were the team that nobody wanted to play. None of the big teams wanted to play us because we didn't make our name as a team by coming to you and trying to kick you off the park, maybe as a lower league team would do normally. We would play football against you and just go up against you and not change our tactics in any way, shape or form.
But without that fear, you just not got that fear there, have you? Yeah.
And that goes down to the boss because he sets up the team, he sets the tactics out, and he decides how we play. And there was never, ever, and this is honest to God, in any game we ever played against top opposition, did we change our tactics. We played the same way every time. And that was an attack. Go and attack. And that's it. Pass and move the ball, lessen your touches, pass and move the ball. And when you get a chance, we'll take it. And that was it. Like you said, Angie, we played with no fear.
Chris frozen?
Yeah, I think you very well.
Chris has got everybody,
Yeah,
just so you
well,
know, Chris is having to use his hotspot because his Wi-Fi's down.
We're having technical difficulties. If you could relive one moment of your career, if you wanted to go back and sort of relive just one moment, well, first of all, sort of what moment would it be? Would you change anything about it? And if so, why?
Change anything about it?
Yeah, if you had the chance to sort of go back in time and revisit just one spell or one moment.
One moment. That's a hard question because and I know this might sound a bit cheesy, but I wouldn't change anything if I'm honest, really. I mean, I think things are meant to be, aren't they? You know what I mean? What will be will be, and I suppose if I would change the result in the League Cup final when Liverpool beat us 2-1.
Cry,
You know,
your eyes out.
you know that would be the one, because I mean when on that day Liverpool beat us 2-1, and the only difference between the two teams was Steve McManaman. I mean, he had an unbelievable game that day.
He was a hell of a player as well.
Well, he was, and he was at the top of his game, but he did. He ran his ragged. He scored 2 goals, got man of the match, and that was it. But apart from him, the rest of the teams were quite even. Really, it was an even game. And on that day, Alan Thompson was as good as Steve McManaman. Alan Thompson scored an unbelievable goal that gets overshadowed, really, a volley into the top corner. He also hit one that the goalkeeper fingertip saved onto the crossbar, David James. That goes in. All of a sudden, Alan Thompson's man of the match, and we're probably going on to win the game.
Yeah,
so
fine margins. Yeah.
It's very fine margins at that top level. And probably if I could change anything, it would be that Thomas' goal goes in, and then I go and get the winner. Being selfish. And we win 3-2. But yeah, that's probably the only thing, because I think obviously we won at Wembley in a playoff final. To win there in a major cup final would have been icing on the cake, really.
Obviously, Celtic are your club or your other team, aren't they? Were you were close to joining Celtic at one point, weren't you?
3 times all in.
Is that what it were?
3 times all in. Once with Luke, when Lou McCarry was there, and twice with Tommy Burns.
I bet that took some doing to turn them down, John. Surely.
Well, no, because don't get me wrong. When word gets out, in fact, Lou McCarry was on. My first game for Scotland was away in Austria, and Lou McCarry was on the trip. What happened? When Scotland used to go and play in any game, whether it be home or away, one of the managers in the Premier League used to come along. So it'd be a different manager each time. And this time it just so happened to be Lou McCarry. And when we landed, when we were in the reception of the hotel, we're waiting to get our keys, he came up to me and he goes, John, can I have a word with you? I went, no problem. Yeah, of course. He went, well, how about you meet me in an hour? And then he was looking at the lift, and he went, meet me on the 10th floor, like that. And he was looking at the lift, and it was a gym up the top. So I went, okay. So went up to see him, and he goes, I want to sign you. And I went, well, there's nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? It's like, it just is what it is. But and he spoke to me and everything else. And then obviously they made an approach to the football club, and Bruce said no, and that was it. You know, so it didn't even become a discussion. It never got further than that. The second time, so obviously Lou McCarry had left. Tommy Burns was in charge, and he came in, and I think he bid, well, he was making a bid of a couple of £1 million or whatever it was at the time. And again, it was said no, and that was it. So, but not once. I knew it was happening, and not once did I go in and say, "Look, I want." You know what I mean? It wasn't like that.
I suppose, obviously, as we discussed before we went live, you've got your children of similar age to me, so you'd have been settled, wouldn't you, and stuff? I would suspect, were you back then?
Well, that and the fact that, I mean, listen, we can talk about games and we can talk about times and everything else, which were fantastic. But the thing that means more to me than anything is the relationship I've got with the supporters.
Yeah.
And
that was strong, wasn't it?
That, for me, that's stronger than anything.
Yeah.
For me. And I would have hated to have lost that. It even goes further than that, because, when you finish playing and you start thinking about possibly coaching, etc., and everything else, and people keep saying, oh, why don't you go for the Bolton job? Why don't you? And I said, I've always said the same thing. I couldn't. I'd love to, but I couldn't, because I couldn't bear the fact that I'd be standing on that sidelines and they'd be calling for my head at some point, because it happens.
Yeah,
it might be a year's time, it might be 6 months, it might be 5 years, but at some point they'll be calling for my head, and it would absolutely break me apart. It would tear me in two. So I would never put myself, I don't think, or the supporters in that position, because it just wouldn't be right.
How does that feel, John, to have to see your name on the back of shirts that kids are wearing, like just when you're out shopping or whatever?
You're proud, you are. You're proud, because it's like this club means so much to me. It's my football club. It's just, what I mean? And that's the way I feel, and it is. And what pleases me more than anything, Ange, and this is a fact, is that when I see kids wearing the Bolton shirt, regardless of the name on the back, you just see the shirts again. Because we've gone a long, long time in this town where they were very scarce. To see a kid in a Bolton shirt was, it was unbelievable. So now we're getting that back again, and that tells me that the club's going in the right direction. It's going well, because now the kids are involved again. And that's, you think we've sunk to the depths, and we're on the way back now. But it just goes to show you that being away from Sky TV, not being on live TV a lot, match-wise and everything else, the kids are brainwashed because they watch that every week. And when they see the big teams on there, that's what they gravitate towards. So, again, going back to that Papa John's final, that's done us a big favour, that, because that's really got the kids involved, and they've seen success. They've been to Wembley, so now they're involved again and they're part of the club.
Yeah, it'll help.
See, Colin, it's a good thing. It's a good thing, Colin.
Well, yeah. You'll have to elaborate on that to John, because obviously,
Colin isn't a fan of the trophy, and I think we've all got issues with how the format of the trophy is to start with in those group stages when you're playing under 21s and things. I think
that's a bit degrading, John, in a way. What I couldn't get my head around, or still can't understand why, I do understand why, but I don't agree with it, is why Bolton Wanderers Football Club should be playing Manchester United's under 21s. It just doesn't fit with me. Do you get what I mean? So it's degrading, if that makes sense.
Well, I get what you're saying, but if you can end up at Wembley in front of 80,000 fans, I'll be honest with you. If you ask the players, ask me, I would do anything for that to happen, and especially where we've come from in such a short space of time. That cup final was a godsend to us as a football club, because it's brought everybody together. Do you know something? That's one of the best days I've had in football.
Oh,
honestly, and I've gone down there to see my kids with their kids at a Wembley final and playing so well, and it was a statement to the country that were watching it and how well we played on that day. We were unplayable.
No, it's right. You're right. You are right.
Yeah, you are. You're completely right.
Of course you are.
How does that sort of that feeling of watching Bolton win at Wembley after playing there, for so many years and having that connection with the supporters, what does it do for the players? How does that correlate for the players? Because the supporters then pick up and want to go to the games and see the players achieve more. But how do the players then take that and carry that on? What does it mean for them?
Well, I think it means a great deal to them when you think about it, and I think we're going to see the benefit of that this year, because to have for them to have their families at Wembley and everything else on a showcase game, 80,000 there, live on television. They've got that now to keep forever. Their families have got that to keep forever, and it means a hell of a lot. So, and not just that, I think this team is now making history in their own right. Because the last thing these guys want to hear is about the white hot times, about the European escapades, about
they want to be you, John. They want to be you. They want that. They want to be remembered by us, don't they? Like you are.
And the good thing is they're making their own history now. You know, everybody's talking about what they're doing now. Because, again, in all honesty, you know, we've been in such bad times, it's been easy to hark back to what the old days were like. And, you know, we keep looking back. Now we've got to start looking forward and keep looking forward. You know, and again, these boys are doing it in their own right now. And it's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of Wembley, obviously gaining promotion to the Premier League against Reading. How did that final leg feel in terms of kind of the summarising the players about them type of games and how it can like, massively affect, you know, how you progress throughout the season and going into the next one?
Well, you think back, you know, and again, we were on about the League Cup final. Now, we played in the League Cup final on April the 2nd. Papa John's final was April the 2nd this year. There were so many similarities, right? And I was convinced that we would then be in the playoff final as well. Do you know what I mean? Because I honestly convinced to the playoff final this year. But going back to our time, although we got beat in the League Cup final, I think that stood us in good stead because when we went back to Wembley the second time, we weren't such in awe of the place. We're not used to it because I don't think you would ever get used to it, but you kind of knew what to expect a little bit better. And you know, we went into that game, rather than being the underdog, we were quite hot favourites, if I'm honest with you, in that game. And we certainly didn't live up to that for the first half hour. Because we could have been 3 or 4 down quite easily. We couldn't get near Reading. Reading came out and we thought we were playing Brazil. You know, their 1 and 2 touch football was fantastic. We could not get within a yard of them, and it wasn't for the love of like of trying, but we were just, God knows, it looked like we had lead in our legs and we just couldn't move. And obviously, then they get the penalty. They're 2-0 up. They get the penalty. And Keith Brannigan saves it, and that changes the history for the whole football club. Because, and I still, you know, again, Keith, I don't think Keith gets the credit for what he did, you know, at that time. And such a good goalkeeper, the best goalkeeper I've played with.
Yeah, well, you picked him over Yossi before, didn't you? In your
Oh, and that's no disrespect to Yossi. I know Keith because I played with Keith at Millwall. Yeah. I obviously came here and played with him. So to me, he's my goalkeeper. Yeah. You know, and that's no slight on Yossi because Yossi was world class. No question about that. But Keith saves the penalty, and from then on in, we got a foothold in the game for the rest of that first half. We sprinted off the pitch at half time, got in the dressing room, and this is where the boss was quite cute because the boss didn't come into the dressing room straight away. He stayed outside, and he gave us a couple of minutes together. Now, that dressing room had a lot of leaders in that dressing room, and we were going round sorting things out ourselves and do you know what I mean, and making a few people aware that they needed to kind of get in the game quite quickly because if not, that was it. So the boss gave us a couple of minutes. We sorted a few rights ourselves, and then he comes in, and we were all expecting him to go ballistic, really. But he was dead cool. He was calm, collected, and never raised his voice. And we were thinking, goodness sake, we thought we were going to get aced, you know. And basically he just said, look, you have worked so hard this season. You have got yourself in a fantastic position. We're now 2-0 down. You've got 45 minutes. Your whole season depends on 45 minutes. You've just got to go out there and put it right. If you play, you'll win the game. So it's up to us. And, you know, we went out that second half and, you know, Jason McAteer is driving us on. Big Alan Stubbs is driving out from the back. The energy. And that's the one thing about that team. We were fit. We always finished the game stronger than the team we were playing. Always. And the energy in that team in that second half was unbelievable. It really was. And got the goals at the right time. I mean, Fabian De Freitas sadly didn't end up playing a lot of games for us. But I tell you what, he picked the right time to have the game of his life and score 2 fantastic goals. And really, that was it, you know. And my biggest memory of that day was Sir Nat. At the end of the day, he's on the pitch. Dave Higson is interviewing Owen Coyle, Sir Nat and myself together on the pitch. Nat gives me a big kiss on the cheek. He's got tears streaming down his face. And he was just absolutely delighted. I mean, he was
What a memory.
What a man.
What a man.
Two men, Dave Higson and Sir Nat on the same pitch.
Yeah.
Two great men.
Must be nice for you to see the statue of Sir Nat outside the stadium as well, obviously with the relationship that you would have had with him.
Do you know, the downside to that for me was it should have been up whilst he was still alive.
Right, yeah, okay.
You know, so he was able to put eyes on himself.
Yeah.
He knew how much the town loved him. He knew how much the fans loved him. But to see that, I think would have been icing on the cake for him. I mean, it's a great tribute. It's fantastic. It's the focal point of our football club.
Really
you know, I see so many people, you know, in the mornings when we're going into the ground and things like that, you know, and people go there to have a word with them, you know, to have a quiet word or to put a flower there and, you know, maybe to, obviously, in memory of their own family and things like that. Do you know what I mean? And you just see people just sitting there having comfort and looking at Sir Nat, looking up to him and just taking comfort from it, you know, because he is our football club.
Yeah, absolutely. And he would obviously be very proud of the club, of the team and the club, the way things are panning out at the moment, wouldn't he? I would imagine.
He'd be so proud of us. I mean, I can just picture him at Wembley for the Papa John's final. He would have been in his element. You know, I mean, the first thing we used to do is when you scored a goal, you looked up and you get that big beaming smile and he's giving it that. You know what I mean? That was him every time. And he would have been in his element at Wembley. But also, for him to see us and how we've responded to the adversity, to nearly going out of business and to claw our way back and to start now working ourselves up the leagues again. And in the way we're playing football, he'd be proud.
How do you think he'd take to playing out from the back?
Probably that's to ruin it.
But we're getting better at it.
Yeah.
You know, it's become the norm, isn't it? So we've accepted it. I think, you know, I think fans watch the game, they accept it. Listen, the manager's got his own beliefs and own ideas, and there's not a lot gone wrong, has it, since he came through the doors?
I love it personally.
Hey, as fans, we've all got our opinions, but we've got to trust him. We've got to trust him as our manager. You know, my biggest worry this summer was that somebody was going to come in and take him. You know, because there's obviously people taking notice of him. You name me one young up and coming English manager that plays football the way that he's trying to play and being successful at it. It's hard to, you know, once you start looking at it, you know what I mean? We're so lucky to have him.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've got to embrace him for as long as he's at this football club and trust him.
Absolutely. So
I'd just like to.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I'm just going to have to say, I'm just going to pay. I love the fact that when you reference Bolton Wanderers, you always say it's our club, and you always reference it as sort of our club and your club, sort of as one entity. And Will Prince, one of the viewers, put a comment on before saying, what has made John stay here permanently after his stay? There has to be something special about the place. And I'd just like to touch on that. What actually is it about Bolton that stands out? If you could summarise Bolton in, say, 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
I'll do it in 2 words, really. The people. Simple as. I mean, it's like, you know, Bolton sometimes doesn't get the best press, as in a place. But you look at it, the people make the place. And they're honest. They say it as it is. You know what I mean? It's
simple as that.
It's a simple thing, and it is a nice place to live. Do you know what I mean? It's the same as every place. Yeah, you go to any place in the world, there's places that aren't so nice. You know, parts of cities, parts of towns that aren't so great. And that's the same everywhere. But do you know what? The people in this town, they're honest, they're hardworking. They'll help you in any way they can. Even when they've got nothing themselves, they'll help you.
As a hard-working Glaswegian, which of course you are, I guess that's Scott, you know, Scott, and come from that kind of environment. That's what you want to see in it, really, I guess.
Well, I think that's, you know, when you look at it, I think that's the demands of the football club. You know, when people in this town, it's a working man's town, and people work hard for their money. The money's not plentiful in this town. And when they come and watch the football team on a Saturday, they want to see them roll their sleeves up, work hard as a team, put a performance on, and do you know what? If we go out there and give 100%, do our best, and on the day we get beat 3-2, we can take that. Because our teams went out there and done its best, and on the day somebody else was a little bit better than us, that's fine. As long as we give 100%. And that's it. And we continue to do that, then we keep the crowd on our side, we keep everybody behind us, and we'll keep going forward.
You're certainly keeping the chat on side tonight. I'm reading all the comments coming through. People are absolutely loving it. So thanks for joining us again.
So, John, I'm going to take you through to the end of the 1997 season now.
Yep.
And what we think is a really, as fans, certainly, a sentimental and fitting that you finished both the club and the division's top scorer.
Yep.
And you scored the final goal at Burnden Park.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't have written it. 24 goals in 43 games, I think that was season was.
Right.
But was there any temptation? So obviously November 97 you moved to Bradford, but was there any temptation or anything that you thought you would want to do once you finished that season? Any other challenges that you thought you might want to have a go at?
Well, I think first and foremost, it was an unbelievable season. I think the players all knew, the staff all knew how much it meant to everybody. You know, we wanted to leave Burnden Park on the right note. It was a hard season in the sense that, you know, teams we'd done really well, and we'd pretty much led the league from Christmas on, really, and that was it. So, you know, the pressure on to stay at the top. I think we confirmed promotion in April to the Premier League, and I think we won the league a couple of weeks after that, I think, or it was close to that anyway. But so it was a tough season, but we also knew how much it meant and the responsibility we had, because how much it meant to people. Because when you think back, Burnden Park, it was a memorial to 33 people that sadly lost their lives at the ground. And to be moving from there, we knew it was a wrench for people. And on that last game, obviously it was live on Sky, but to see like the players out of that 58 side that won the FA Cup against Man United, Nat Lofthouse, 2 goals, 2-0, to see all these boys walking around the pitch, and Sir Nat, again, with tears running down his face and everything else, how much it meant to them. That hit home. It really did. You know, and knowing it was going to be the last game, knowing the history there and how many games had been played there, big, huge games, and what it meant to people. And all that week, Sir Nat, he used to take you, he used to put his arm around you and say, "Come on, Cocker, come on." And he would walk you around the pitch, you know what I mean? And he would say, like, maybe you hadn't scored for 2 or 3 games or something like that, you know, and he would say, "Look, just relax, get a chance, just keep doing what you're doing," and, you know, just to give you confidence. And he was brilliant, you know, because he was just so humble. You know, when you think back, one of the greatest strikers England has ever seen, and he doesn't get the credit. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. 30 goals and 33 full internationals. Who else has done that? Nobody will.
No.
Not at that ratio. 30 in 33 games. Come on. Unbelievable. And somebody like that takes his time, puts his arm around you. You see him every day, and he's like, he's talking to you. Do you know what I mean? It's honestly, he was just loved it. Absolutely loved the bones off him, as everybody did. And all that week, he would take me around and he said, "You've got to score that last goal, Cocker. Got to score that last goal."
Putting it in your head as well, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, building your confidence, but also giving you a responsibility, because if he said it, you had to do it. Do you know what I mean?
You have to do it.
So, but again, so it worked out. I mean, obviously we got a penalty with a couple of minutes to go, and that was it. And I thought, well, that's it. But then we broke down the left-hand side. I think Mixus went to have a shot. He got blocked. It spun up into the air, and Jimmy Phillips has swung his left foot. He's gone for a strike at goal, and it's came across the face of goal, and I managed just to stick my leg out and get a tap in.
Instinct.
Instinct, I suppose. But I mean, on the other side of that, rather than finish with a penalty, we finished with a proper goal as well.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have worked any better. Basically, it was the last kick of the game, because after that they went back, took centre circle, took kick off again, and that was it. He blew up. So it was our last kick of the game ever at the ground, and it ended up in the back of the net. So
Brilliant.
It couldn't have. Yeah, I mean, it was like somebody had written a script. Do you know what I mean? It did. It just weird.
Obviously, after that season, the move to the Reebok, which is now the Tough Sheet, came around. Did that impact, I suppose, you personally, but the group as a whole? Did that change impact the group and give you a bit of perhaps a downer, thinking that all those memories that you had at Burnden might have been lost a little bit? Was there any anxiety heading into the new ground, or was it quite easy to get over?
No, I don't think there was anxiety. I think there was part of you looking forward to it, because, I mean, listen, state of the art stadium, it was unbelievable. I mean, when you think back, 1997, so the stadium's built 1997. You look at it now, and if you didn't know any better, you would think it was probably 10, 12 years old.
Yeah,
it was so futuristic in its design, and especially now it's been cleaned as well. I mean, it makes a difference. But no, but you look at it, and the design, the forward thinking, the two tunnels, the dressing rooms, and again, the boss had a lot to do with that in its design. Gordon Hargreaves, Brian Ball, all these guys got together, and you've got to say, fantastic stadium. But, and holding your heart, it wasn't Burnden Park. But it was great to walk into it. Big new dressing rooms, they were massive. Individual baths, which was a luxury we'd never seen before. Showers that worked. So no, it was a fantastic place to walk into. And again, not Burnden Park, but it was the future.
So have you got any memories from when it was being built? Because I personally remember it sitting in these little cabins and watching it being erected. Yeah. And have you got any yourself from back then?
Yeah, last week I'd found a load of pictures, which at the time I was one of the sponsored players for Reebok. So because of the Reebok Stadium and everything else, I was actually in there. So I had the wellies on and the hat and the high vis on. And I've got loads of pictures.
You need to share these on social media, John. You really do. That's what people love to see, that type of stuff.
I'm actually, once I show you the pictures, I'm actually taking credit for it. I probably built half of that day. You know what I mean? When I think away back when I was working on the building sites, you know what I mean? So that came in handy at the time. I was on the tools. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, it was good to look back and reminisce, and to look at it. It was. I mean, it's some stadium. It's still some stadium now, isn't it? It's something to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Certainly is. Going to head into some viewer questions now in what should be Chris's Fanzone fan focus, but that will be presented by me. But we'll head into some viewer questions in just a minute. So we've got a question that's coming from Chris M, and he said, if Super John could choose to play in any other era of Wanderers squad other than your own successful teams, which team and manager would you pick to play under, and why?
What a question.
Oh, it would have to be Big Sam's time, and it would have to be with JJ, Yuri. Who wouldn't want to play with these guys? Do you know what
I mean? I know.
You score some bloody goals then, John, wouldn't you?
I mean, listen, we were spoiled, weren't we? I mean, we had world superstars coming to play for Bolton Wanderers, and like I said, JJ, unbelievable. I mean, these Legends games that we've played in, you know what I mean? Even now, I just stand there watching my mouth. Even now. And you look at it, Hierro, Rolls Royce, Campo in there still. I mean, unbelievable. I mean, we were spoiled. As a football club, we were spoiled, weren't we? It was unbelievable. Unbelievable. But that would be the time just to play with these guys for one game. That would do.
Strike partner, would it be? Would you prefer an Anelka, or would you prefer a Kevin Davis, or LS Jude whipping some crosses for you?
Any of the above, really. I mean, Any of the above, because I mean, you listen. You were going to play with a class player regardless, and like you said,
I do like the thought of you and an Elker up front, John. I got to admit that does.
Well, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, pick any one of them because you're getting a class player, aren't you? And with the guys all round about us and giving you the ammunition, you'd get plenty of chances. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Certainly would. We've had another one from Pete L, and he said, "Just how blessed were you to have played with David Lee, and to have him crossing to you? What was he like to play with?"
David Lee, at times, was unplayable. He really was, and such an outlet for the team because we knew under pressure, we knew we could get the ball, put it wide to David, and he would just go and make it happen. And as soon as that ball went wide, whether it be myself and Andy or myself and Owen Coyle, myself and Nathan, whoever it was, all our job was then to take up positions that we would get on the end of crosses. And David, I mean, not only was he the quickest thing on two legs, he was probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet as well. Yeah. Even to this day, my big pal, we play golf regular. Played golf on Sunday, I beat him again on Sunday. So. But no, he's honestly nicest guy you'll ever meet. And I mean, even now he's looked after himself. Do you know what I mean? He's got better body definition now than he had when he was a player. He's a machine, honestly. I'll tell you the story, right? So any time we're together and you know, pictures and all that, nobody will stand next to him. Everybody wants to get away because he makes us all look terrible. Do you know what I mean?
I have seen something on social media recently, a topless photo, and was like,
I think it's taking every opportunity now to get the body, which quite right. Listen, he's worked so hard. He still to this day works so hard, and he's chiseled. He's like a Greek god. But I mean, if I say one game defines David Lee in my eyes, it would be the game at Anfield when we won 2-0. And on that night, myself and Andy Walker scored the goal, so obviously we get the headlines in the newspaper and everything else. But that night belonged to David Lee. David Lee was unplayable that night. He ran Liverpool ragged. He tore them to shreds. That was a game of his life. And honestly,
what a time to have it as well.
That's the best live performance I've ever seen off a player. Fact.
I've got another question from Liam, and he said, "Did you take a souvenir from Burnden?"
Did I take a souvenir from Burnden? I suppose I did, actually. I'll show you this. I did.
You're getting it.
I got these out the other day, actually, and I forgot I had them. I thought they'd gone missing. But I'll show you this.
Oh,
look at that.
I love that shirt.
Oh, the 10 as well. Excellent.
This was my shirt from Anfield.
No way.
That's class.
Wow.
Tell you what, you get some bloody money for that, John.
So that's the Anfield shirt. And what's this one? This was the playoff final shirt.
Oh.
Magic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing that.
That's some memorabilia.
I found them the other day. So
amazing. I'm so glad you found them.
I know.
Yeah.
First one, I suppose that's the thing I've took from Burnden Park. Yeah, because that's what it is, isn't it? I mean, that's... What else did I get? I got something else.
Did you not get... Some people got, like, bits of turf, didn't they, and stuff?
No, I didn't get anything like that. I suppose... Well... No, I suppose it's just memories, isn't it? I mean, for me... We're so lucky, aren't we? Because we can look back nowadays. You can go onto YouTube, etc., can't you? And you can look up things, and that's your memories, isn't it? I mean, I would think that the turf would have been gone by now and dead by now. But no, I think everybody grabbed something, didn't they? Everybody took something, and I suppose I must have something. I was probably a right collector. You know what I mean? I collected quite a lot of stuff and put it away and forgot about it and things like that. And then, like you said, by accident, you start coming across things again, don't you?
You'll have a loft full. I bet you've got a loft full of stuff you don't know about.
Well, do you know, it's probably the thing, and that's probably one of the things I think probably the club could do, because I'd imagine there's so much memorabilia out there with ex-players and stuff. It'd be nice to have some sort of display.
A room in the stadium. Yeah.
Because I think now, as the club has grown again, things like tours around the stadium and that are starting becoming more popular again, and more people want to do them. So I think the memorabilia things up and things, it's talking points, isn't it? And it gives them something to see.
Definitely.
And when
shirt, that shirt, John, that you've just shown people now on here, people will flock miles to come and see that. You can almost guarantee it.
I've got other stuff as well. I mean, I've got a couple of gold boots as well. Do you know what I mean? I've got a couple of that are in boxes. They're not in. I've got nothing in the house. I haven't even got a picture up of football.
No way.
So my caps, my shirts, my gold boots, all medals, all that stuff, they're all in boxes. They're all just chucked away in boxes, and it's just a shame, because, and that's not just my stuff. That's all the guys' stuff. Do you know what I mean?
You've not got one of them gold boots to hand them. You can show us.
Do you want to look?
Go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
We'll be round on Sunday for tea.
It might need a dusting, right? But
this was the second
one. This was the one from Bundon Park. This was the second one.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's fantastic.
That was the one from the last season at Bundon Park.
And that is not on your mantelpiece. What's going on?
Is that I'm actually in the loft at the minute, and it's over in the corner. But it's not.
That'd be hung from the ceiling in my front room.
I've got a wooden star in my wall here, and you've got that.
It's heavy. Do you see the writing on it? What it says?
We can't. Can you lift it up a little bit? Oh, there we go. A little bit to your left. That'll do it. Yeah, we can see it now. Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That.
Yeah.
Was that sponsored by Adidas then? Yeah, and they presented that with you too. Yeah.
And the other one I've got, the other one's in a glass case. It's not as good as that one's a nicer looking one. The other one's in a glass case. It was when they brought the Predator boots out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was in a glass case, and it's that I don't know where that one is. But
will you find it, John?
Yeah.
We've got another one from Liam, and this is about sort of that Wolves incident. He said, "Does he love the fact that Wolves fans seem to hate him?" Liam said he seems to revel in it, and Liam loves it. Does it play on you? Do you find it a little bit funny when you get that stick from Wolves fans? Does it still?
I get it to this
day.
It's
rent free.
Get it to this day. It's funny because when we got, what year was it? When we got relegated from the Championship to League One, that weekend, honest to God, it was like I spent all weekend just blocking people, right? Blocking people, and they're calling me all the names under the sun. And then I'm looking at some of the profiles, right? And there's like young girls that are like 22 and 23, and I thought, you weren't even born. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got a clue. I'm looking at them, I'm just blocking them and blocking.
Just been passed down, hasn't it? Passed down generations.
A week after that weekend, right? I get this picture sent to me, and it was this guy, a Wolves fan, and he sent this picture to me, and he goes, "Oh, I've done a roaring trade on these." He had these badges printed saying, "I've been blocked by John McGinlay." Right? So he said 500 of them. He says, "I sold them all. I've got another 500 done for the next game." Like, are you kidding me on? So the odd one comes on and still has a laugh, but some of them, they can't let it go. They just keep going on. Do you know what I mean? And it's like,
you should have asked for a slice of that commission from them badges.
Tell me about it, Angie. Tell me. But do you know what it is, right? And I've found out down the years, they blame me, right, for Steve Bull not playing in the Premier League.
Right.
And the reason being, I should have got sent off in that semi-final. And in their eyes, they would have won and won the game.
Yeah.
And then Steve Bull would have got their dream to play in the Premier League.
So to the younger viewers, Steve Bull is essentially John, but for Wolves, if that makes sense. Is that right? Would that be fair, John? Would you say that's correct? Like the legend, if you will. They're kind of.
He never really scored against us, did he?
No, he didn't. You know what I'm trying to say.
No, but this is my thing.
B-Tech John McGinlay.
Yeah, that's what that meant. Yeah.
No. By the way, he was some player. He scored some goals, but at that time, he didn't do anything against us, and it was. I just think at that time we had their number, if that makes sense, and I remember one goal he scored, and it was a semi-final first leg. He scored one of the goals at Molineux. But other than that, I can't remember him scoring a goal against us. So, credit to our boys at the back that put the shackles on him. But I think he would have taken care of business himself. I don't think he needs to blame me for not winning the Or he doesn't, but their fans don't need to blame me for that. Because
not, yeah.
If they had performed, then he would have been all right, wouldn't he?
Very true.
But I've got to say, they were great games. They were the first games we looked for every season. They were brilliant games. I mean, two big clubs. We're bigger than them, but I mean, two big clubs. They're only called Wanderers just after us, you know what I mean? But Wanderers beat.
Copied us.
We're the one and only.
Yeah, good. They're a good club. I mean, they've had good times. It's a cycle, isn't it? We've had good times and dipped. They were dipped and then they've come back now and had good times. So, yeah.
Might get relegated this season, I think.
It's not looking good for them.
Any more, Ben? Any more for any more?
No. Oh.
It's always a good thing when Ben mutes himself.
I think we're just about coming to the end of the viewers section. I don't think we've got many more coming in. If you have got any, if you want to pop them in, we'll get them answered towards the end of the episode. But we can head on, and Carl, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, of course. You have to sort the questions out, John. Can you tell us a little bit about the FPA and what it kind of is and what it does for the club? Because obviously it's been released, recently, and we'd like to learn a little bit more, if possible.
Well, the FPA, the Former Players Association.
Yeah,
I think it's to prove a very important part of the football club. If I'm honest with you,
yeah,
it's nice to see the football club embracing the Former Players Association. We had some meetings recently, and we've came into partnership with the club. Cut long story short, a year ago, in fact, it was a year ago about now, really, I was asked to become president of the association, which I was proud and glad to take up. And again, cut a long story short, we raised money during the year, and last Christmas we put out 50 hampers to needy families, and we were out in the community delivering them. We delivered them by hand. We put the boxes out there. We did all that. They were very well received. Hopefully we can raise enough money this year that we can do 100 boxes if possible. Yeah. So we want to get bigger and better and keep it going and get more people involved. We'd like more companies to get involved as well to help us out if possible. Part of the club wanted the ex-players to come back on board, to be more visible during games, to be in the suites, etc. Come in and watch a game as well. Enjoy the day, be part of the football club again, because for too long the ex-players were kind of forgotten about under different regimes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thankfully now we've got owners who are embracing the former players. They want them in and about the football club, and we're excited.
So why is the FPA important for Bolton, and what does it mean to us as fans?
Well, Angie, I think if we say we're a family club, we're all inclusive, well, we've got to include our former players. And I think, we've got to look at what they did whilst they were playing for the football club. We've got to respect that, and we've got to honour that as well. And by bringing them back on board, these guys deserve the feeling to be, they've got to feel like they're worthwhile. They've got to feel like what they did for this football club. They should be able to come in and get a ticket and watch the game. They should be able to be involved. We want them as part of the fabric of the football club because they're our history.
Yeah.
And I think, I think the supporters seeing them, and a lot of them they won't have seen for a long time. I think they'll appreciate the fact that they're getting a chance to mingle with them and speak to them and see them at games. And again, we want them to be part of it.
I was like a kid at Geth's mum's charity thing. I was in my actual element. It was the like biggest former player thing that we've ever done, and we've not seen so many of them for so long because, like you said, they were kind of pushed out of the club completely. So I absolutely love that this is happening.
Yeah, you and me both, Ange.
And it's
You can make that all three.
Again, you think back to the players, and the players sacrifice a lot for this football club, as much as everybody does. Supporters sacrifice a lot for the football club, financially and time and travel and everything else. If we're all one, we're all one. Everybody has to be inclusive, and that's it. So we're getting back to that, which is pleasing.
You'll have to make sure you sign James Trafford up so we can come in the away end with us all.
He was there last night.
Was he?
He was there last night.
What a guy.
Oh.
I think he fell in love with the club, hasn't he?
Do you know something? What a boy. He was straight 22 clean sheets, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? Big shoes to fill, that's for sure. But listen, he deserves his move. He's got a huge future ahead of him. England's number one.
You think so, yeah?
Absolutely. It's just a matter of 2 years.
I'm just so proud we've been a part of that journey. He's got a massive career ahead, and we're going to be on his wiki and on his. You know what I mean? We've helped build him.
Well, you look at both him and Connor Bradley, and to get two boys on loan from two huge clubs, but to come in with the attitude they had, and to be part of it and wanting to be part of it. For God's sake, both of them were crying at Wembley, and you know what I mean? They were crying because they were leaving.
Yeah.
Knowing they were going on to bigger things and going on to further their careers. But goodness, I've never seen two boys more upset. They were fantastic. The fans loved them. They loved the fans. I mean, it was such a rapport. Great to see. And again, to be so humble, the two of them, and come in with the attitude they did, set the bar so high now, because everybody that comes in on loan, again, big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Massive.
How important is that sort of in the coming years for the club, as we now feels like we're coming back to some sort of successful period where younger kids are coming in and coming through the doors and wanting to go to the football? How important now is the Former Players Association in coming years that these events can keep on happening?
Well, that's exactly it. The more the players are included and the more they feel part of it, the more likelihood that we're going to have more events on that are going to be popular. I think a lot of players were treated quite badly by the football club. A lot of players fell out of love with the football club. So we've got to now reverse that. We've got to bring them in and, make them feel included again. And don't get me wrong, it's not all roses. It's hard with some, because some are quite stubborn, and we're going to have to work on that behind the scenes. But we'll make it happen.
If anyone can, John, you can.
We will.
And if we can do anything to help, on the podcast,
feel free,
invite him on, we'll have a good chat with him. Feel free.
No, but again, it's all part of the process, isn't it? Slowly but surely the club is getting back to where we should be, and that behind the scenes that's happening as well. Not just on the park, not just with the fan base growing again. Behind the scenes, things are happening as well, which is pleasing.
Definitely.
Fantastic. Just to round off, so as a little bit of a tradition, as our initiation, we've also got a bit of a tradition at the end of the episodes where the last guest that we had on will leave a question for the next guest.
Right.
And so previously we had on Aaron Wilbraham. He was our most recent guest. And after quite a touching segment about sort of words of inspiration he's received over the years as a player, but also outside of football, just words of advice, he sent us his favourite quote that he's been sort of told from someone, and that was, "I'd rather be a lion for the day than a sheep for 100 years." And in his words, he said, "That's my favourite quote because it means I'd rather be brave and have the balls than follow the crowd." So we asked that then to you, and he left a question. What is your favourite quote or saying, and why?
Wow. What's my favourite quote and saying? Not so much a quote or saying, but I think probably speak to people the way you'd like to be spoken to and treat people the way you'd like to be treated. Because if you do that, you won't go far wrong. Do you know? I think from when I see football players, and I hope it happens because it happened. You should never walk past anybody without signing whatever it is they have to sign, or take a photo, or spend some time with them. And I know it's difficult at times. It might be their families, it might be that, but I think it's part of what you should do. It's part of your job as such, in a way. You know what I mean? Because if we are going to get that camaraderie with the fans and the players and everyone else, we have to have that connection. And it's happened not a few times. It's happened. It's getting less and less. Where if I see it, I hate that. I really do. If somebody walks past somebody without acknowledging them or whatever, that really sticks with me. It really does. And I've got to say something, because that little kid there that's standing with his book or whatever and wanting that signed, if you don't do that, that impacts him for the rest of his life. Believe me, it does. And it doesn't take you 30 seconds, for goodness sake. Do you know what I mean? And just put on you know what I mean? It's nice to be nice.
Amen, John.
Expertly put. So what we're going to do is you now have the opportunity to ask our next guest a question. So you don't have to do it now. You can go away and think about it.
Okay.
Our next guest is actually in a week's time, and it's MJ Williams. So you'll now have the chance to ask him one question, and that can be anything you want, and we'll reveal to the guests, or to the audience, sorry, what that will be in our next episode, which is in a week's time.
Okay.
So you'll have to go away and think about it. But I think that just about brings this episode to an end. Episode 44. Just before we sign off, we'd like to say thanks to our headline sponsor, Eco Warm Windows, for sponsoring us for the upcoming season. We really do appreciate it. But yeah, that brings today's episode to a close. So thank you very, very much.
I'm so emotional.
That's gone quick, that. I mean, it's...
It flew.
I can't believe you waited to 44 to get me on.
Yeah.
We were trying to get him
bloody trying.
Yeah.
I've messaged your Michael about 60 odd times, so you can have a word with him.
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. Thanks for Chris getting through to John and getting him on.
Yeah, he's on holiday, isn't he, at the minute?
He's back on early hours of Friday morning. I think he's back. Yeah.
He's back for Cheltenham.
Well, back for Cheltenham, straight down there. Yeah.
I have a question. Do you get to many away games, John?
I do within reason. Obviously, I've been fortunate where, if I take you back, the League Two season when the COVID, I did the radio all the time, and the reason I did the radio was because I could get to the games. so I was home and away. Do you know what I mean? I was like Jack Deeren's little puppy dog. I think it just came up. You know what I mean?
Up there for thinking, John.
Please, Jack, please can I come and do it with you, Jack?
me, yeah. But no, I mean, I do. I get to as many as I can within reason. I've also got a football team that plays on a Saturday as well, and we're fortunate. We're fortunate that Bolton Borough, they're called, by the way, and when we're at home, Bolton are away. So we play at home when Bolton are away. So I do get to games, not every week, but as much as I can.
Yeah.
So that's your second team, people. Bolton Wanderers, then Bolton Borough.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Look us up. Come and see.
There you are. No, thank you very much for joining us. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for taking some time to come and talk to us. But that does bring this episode to an end. We hope you all enjoyed. If you want to have a look back at some other episodes, you are more than welcome to. You can find them all over on our YouTube or tune in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. But for now, that is everything, and we will catch you in the next one. Take care.
Thanks very much.
Bye.
Thank you.